Hello, and welcome to the first ever Cookston Crafts podcast. I'm Claire, and I run Cookston Crafts in the northeast of Scotland in Aberdeenshire. I produce hand-dyed yarn, and I love to share my love of all things crafty with other people through teaching workshops in here in a converted stead-in space that we have, and also online as well. Hence the reason for starting this podcast. A few years ago, if someone had told me I'd be doing something like this, I would have run for the hills. However, given the last couple of years we've had a few hurdles to overcome, haven't we? And talking on camera like this I wouldn't say it's second nature, but it's built a little momentum, and I thought it might be nice to have one place where I kind of give a bit of a roundup of what I've been up to, and yes, just share that love of all things crafty. It won't be all knitting, I promise. There will be some crochet chat and anything else as well. Basically, I want to show you what I've been working on, what I've been working on in the business, and anything that's coming up. So it might be talk of yarn shows and things like that. But one of the things that I find really useful from watching podcasts and things is finding out about different patterns. I love a browse of Instagram and Facebook, but I'm terrible for remembering what those patterns are. So I'm going to do my best. If I mention a pattern, I'm going to pop it down in the information tab below so that you've all got direct links to it. And we all need a little bit of inspiration for new patterns, don't we? That's what I particularly like from a podcast. So I thought it might be nice to explain to you why I set up the business. I guess it's something that I assume a lot of people already know, so apologies if you've heard this story before, but I used to work in oil and gas. I had 3 young kids, 3 under 5, and you know what's coming next? It just didn't work any longer with a young family. I'd always knitted, I'd always been crafty and creative, but I used it as kind of my downtime, I guess, a way to kind of switch my head off once the kids had gone to bed. I just really, really loved how it would help me switch off a busy brain. And I then started to think, I need something just for me. And both of my grandparents had been crafty. One grandma was a seamstress, and she did upholstery as well and was really, really talented. So I learned to sew from her at a young age. And the other taught me to knit. So the passion had always been there. But when my middle boy, I think it was, when I was expecting him, I saw all these crocheted hats. And I thought, I can't crochet. But I'm quite a determined character. So I decided that I would try and teach myself to crochet using YouTube videos, which are fabulous, which are great. But I came across a few pitfalls on the way. One being that the majority of the videos I was watching were using American terminology, and then I'd look at a UK pattern and I would really struggle to work out which was which. So after a few years, I would say probably 3 or 4 years, I was completely obsessed by crochet, and people kept asking me to will you make me a minion hat? That was kind of where I was at about maybe 10, 12 years ago. 12 years ago it would be. And there's only so many minion hats that you can make. So I decided that my answer instead, I can never say no. My answer instead would be no, but I'll teach you how. So I taught a few friends how to crochet to begin with. And then, as I say, after I'd had my 3rd child, I realised that the working world just wasn't going to work for me anymore. So decided to start teaching some crochet workshops. And it really was just to give me, I guess, adult company to be able to talk to someone. But I realised that I absolutely loved it. I love passing on knowledge to other people, and things just grew from there. So I literally taught the classes around the kitchen table, and that's how the business started back in 2015. I think once you have delved into crochet and knitting in a big way, hand-dyed yarn is kind of one of the routes that you can go down, and I thought I'm going to give that a go. And that was probably back in beginning of 2017. I started dyeing yarn, and I absolutely fell head over heels in love with it, and I still do. That the workshops were really the main part of the business, and the hand dyed was a bit of an add-on. And I did my first yarn festival, a local one, up in Portsoy, and couldn't believe that people would actually buy my yarn. So things kind of escalated from there. And over the last 2 or 3 years, I've really focused on trying to build up a website and promote myself a little bit more on Instagram and on Facebook and things. And here I am today. So what I want to do is to continue to share that. I know that we can't often meet up in big groups at the moment, but this might be a nice way to grab a cuppa and chat about whatever I've been working on. So I've got a few works in progress that I'm going to show you. One of which is the Mema cardigan. I particularly love to knit with 4-ply. It's probably my favourite yarn to knit with. I just find that my hands, I don't know, they relax when I'm knitting with 4-ply. So this is the Mema cardigan. It's by Megan Nodecker, which I think is Pip and Pin. I'll put the link to it below. It's upside down. So this is the sleeves. I actually have done both of the sleeves. Normally I leave these until last, but I wanted to see whether I could get the cardigan done out of 3 skeins, and wanted to do the sleeves first so that I could make it the maximum length, but I decided to just break into that 4th skein. This is the hummingbird colourway. One of the things that I've done over the last couple of years is put together a treat box for people. So a friend of mine, Diane from Essentially You, she lives locally and has a small business too, and it can be quite lonely at times in this small business world. I like to potter, I like to be by myself, enjoy just sitting, knitting and relaxing, but obviously that's not what I do all day, unfortunately. So Diane and I got talking right at the very beginning of lockdown in 2020 and thought, how are we going to overcome this? And we've decided to put together a collection of like locally produced small items with a skein of yarn and put it into a treat box. I've got one here. This was the November one, and I'm actually going to run a giveaway for this just to launch the podcast. So my kids will be cringing when I say I've said this, but if you could like and subscribe and pop a comment along the video at the bottom, just so that you can enter to win this, and I'll draw it at the end of January, 31st of January I'll draw it. It'll just be a random winner. Let's go for it. I'll open it up to worldwide. Usually I stick to UK because of the postage costs, but we're celebrating the launch of this. So in these boxes, you typically get a skein of yarn, and this was the Winter Roses colourway, which I just love. I always doubt myself when I'm making these. So usually I just give a picture, and I draw inspiration for the yarn from the picture. So you all get that up front so that there are no huge surprises. If you didn't like red, for example, you don't need to sign up to this one. And then I also, in this one, decided to pop in, we've got some bath salts from the Glasgow Soap Company. They were the mulled wine ones. I don't think they were all mulled wine, but there's a wee Kenco coffee. You'll have to excuse this one, it's open already. It's the Cocoa Ooze chocolate. That's a local business to us too. And there was a Christmas card from Joanna Basford as well, who's also local to here. A brilliant illustrator, you'll all have heard of her. But these were little Christmas cards for Friends of Anchor. Oh no, the Archie Foundation, sorry. I started knitting with this yarn, with the Winter Roses yarn, the other evening because I needed a shot to kind of advertise these boxes. So I started this one, and it's by Life is Cozy. I'll try and remember what the name of it is. It's called the Stormy Sky Shawl by Life is Cozy. Again, I'll pop a link in the bottom, and I really like it. It's a really nice open, lacy kind of effect. It's done on I think I've done it on a 5mm needle, and it's designed for just 100-gram skein of 4-ply. So I use these treat boxes. Once every 2 months I put them together, so it's not a monthly subscription, it's just once every 2 months. So I'm working on the January one at the moment, and that's kind of what I've been working on this week. So I've dyed all the yarn, and it is across in the house drying on every radiator there is. I'll focus on getting them all twisted and labelled up this week, and hopefully they'll go out by, well, they'll all go out by the end of January. So if you are interested in those, they are available as a subscription product, and they're also available as a standalone product every time as well, so you don't have to sign up to anything. You will find more information for that on the website, which I probably should have mentioned at the beginning. It's www.cookstoncrafts.com, and that's where you'll find all of the yarns and workshops as well. Right, what next? I also have a few finished things. So over the Christmas holidays, I decided I wasn't going to start anything new. I was frantically knitting in the run-up to Christmas a Bridgerton sweater for my mother-in-law for her Christmas. I don't have it because obviously she has it, but I might get her to lend it back to me so I can show you all in another video, because I absolutely loved knitting that. It was a real challenge, lots of colour work, but I really thoroughly enjoyed knitting it, and I will share a picture with you, hopefully, if I work out how to do that. But yeah, I had a lot of unfinished projects, don't we all? I love these people who say, oh, I only start one project and I just see it all the way through. I'm not that person. I'm really easily distracted, so I love to start something new. These were socks knitted with an opal commercial yarn. I can't remember the name of the colourway, but I'll have a look and see. And I just loved the colours in it. But I cast these on sitting on the banks of Loch Marie when we were up in Gairloch last summer, and I just remember that, like, the blue, the sky, the colours around there were just amazing, and we had great weather too, so this has some fond memories for me. But the second sock, I have a bit of an issue with the second sock. The second sock was in and out of jacket pockets. Not quite as glamorous as sitting by a loch knitting. It was used while I was running my kids around to various different clubs and things, and swimming lessons and stuff. So I only had a toe to finish. So I sat down and finished that over the Christmas holidays. So I now have a nice new pair of socks. I decided to actually knit these on 2.25mm needles. When I first started sock knitting, I went for 2.5mm needles, and I just found that they were a little bit baggy. They weren't quite snug enough on my foot. They would be okay for the first wear, but then the next time I would wear them, they'd be sliding down in my boots. So I decided to go down a size, and it has made a real difference. I really like it now. It's just a little bit denser and a tighter kind of gauge. So I think I'm going to knit those that way going forward. Speaking of sock knitting, that's one of the workshops that I've taught over the last year, maybe even 2 years. We've done a few on Zoom, and initially I am a bit of a technophobe. Love to talk about knitting, love to teach people, but the actual gadgetry involved, I'm not the greatest at. So it took me a wee while, but we now have the setup. Nailed, and I have a camera above my hands, and then I can look at the screen. And I think the feedback on the online workshops has been great, because people then have a video of directly what my hands are doing to watch back whenever they like. So you might miss something when you're in an actual physical class, or you might get distracted by something else. I also, this is a really important part of it for me, there's nothing worse than that feeling when you're sat in a room and someone else is much more confident and competent than you are, and you're sitting going, oh, I've got 2 hours of this and I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't have signed up to this. Whereas no one is aware of what the other one is doing. We will sometimes hold up our work at the end to show what we've worked on, but you haven't got that intimidation, so you just kind of focus on your own thing, and as I say, you can watch the videos back in your own time, which is great. So they will continue. I will try and run a few in-person workshops over the next few months, but the online ones are here to stay. I love teaching them that way, so I will continue with that. One other project that I almost finished. You can see how this is going to go. I jump from one thing to the next. I'll try. I promise I've got a wee structure sitting here, but another thing that I wanted to show you was, let me pull up the right information. This was a sweater that I knitted for my daughter. So she's 8, and when I saw this yarn, it's beautiful. It's by Woolly Mama Yarns, and I think it's called Hopeless Romantic, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It was one of those moments. I was at Yarndale as a vendor, and I went at the end of the day with our little bag of rubbish to go to the bin, and 2 skeins of yarn just jumped in my hand, and I had to come home with them. I didn't pay much attention to what they were called, how much they were, nothing like that. I just knew that as soon as I saw them, I absolutely loved the colourway, and I knew that Ailsa would too. It's much brighter and zingier than I usually dye as well, so I think it's nice to try out other dyers and kind of push it out of your comfort zone with colours sometimes too. So I just weighed what I had left. I used exactly 150 grams for this, and she is 8, so I was quite chuffed. The pattern is Matilda by Along Avec Anna, and it's got this beautiful keyhole neckline at the back, which has little I-cord ties. They're not poke tight. There we go. Little ties at the back, and I think that just makes it extra cute. One of the things that I thought about doing, what I would like from a podcast, is some skills and some information, and you can skip past that bit if you really don't want to. I think I'm going to record it as a separate video completely, but I'm going to demonstrate how to make the I-cord. So if you want to watch that, I'll try and add a click on the link so that you can watch how to make an I-cord and what it can be useful for as well. I also did an I-cord cast off at the frill at the top here, and I think it just really neatens up the cast off edge. I cast off normally, which I think is what the pattern called for, but it was just rolling up too much, so I did a little I-cord cast off instead, and I really like that. Ailsa does too. So the other important thing to say about this pattern is that it's supposed to have a little seed stitch through it, which is really cute in the pattern, but it was just lost in this beautiful speckled yarn, and I thought it really didn't need it, so I omitted the actual pattern, and I finished that over the Christmas holidays. So I'm quite chuffed with that one, and she likes it. She wears it too, so that's good. It's always a risk, isn't it, when you make something for a kid and then they go, I don't like that anymore. The other thing that I have, the other work in progress, it's going to be a long-term one, and it's not knitting or crochet. I saw this Phenology Wheel. I didn't know that's what they were called Phenology Wheel. And this I bought from Oh So Beautiful. Oh So Beautiful it is. So they do this fabric, and I actually ordered the hoop from them too. And I think I'm going to take out this bit because you can't actually, I haven't finished it, but I tried to do the 2022 with French knots and they're just lost. So the idea is that you embroider one symbol every day. I'll admit I'm never going to sew one every day. What I've been doing is just setting up a little note on my phone to say what my icon is going to be, and then maybe a couple of times a week I'll sit down with it and just fill in all of those icons. But I think it's going to be a really nice memento to have. So yeah, that's my other little embroidery project. Another project that's going to be longer term is this Safe Space blanket by Skein. And I loved the idea. I loved the fact that she was fundraising for the Trevor Project as well. And it's the same person that designed the Northeasterly blanket, and I actually had it in mind for a mini skein advent from the lovely Jen at Castle View Yarns. And it's gotten all tangled up in my mow here. I'm holding a strand of 4-ply. So these are an example of some of the mini skeins from Jen. They're lovely, aren't they? I'm holding a strand of this with a strand of just neutral mohair for some extra snuggliness. And I love how it's working up so far. But I also have a few mini skeins left over from a Spectrum Fibres advent from a few years ago. So I'm going to pop in some of Bryony's mini skeins too, and just add to it whenever I can. I really like the idea of that though. I like a long-term project as well as some shorter speedy knits. So I think that's it in terms of works in progress, or ones that I'm going to show you. There are several other hidden away, but that's where I'm at just now and what I'm working on. One of the other things that I've got coming up is a sock workshop, but I'm also going to do a free session where I demonstrate some colourwork knitting. Now don't look too close because it's not the best colourwork in the world, to be fair. I needed to make a little sample sock to show what this colourway would look like knitted up. So I did a little toddler-sized sock. Looks massive here. It is small, I promise. And I did it on 2.5mm double-pointed needles. So obviously I don't have enough stitches to go around for to use my short circular, which is my preferred method of knitting. And I do struggle with the double-pointed needles when I'm doing colour work as well. It's like knitting with a hedgehog. So it's a little bit tight. The floats aren't the greatest, but I'm going to demo this in a free session. I think on Sunday afternoon. I don't know even what date that is. So I'll pop it in the information once I've got it all confirmed. Because colour work really isn't that hard. It does take a bit of practice, but how to do it is fairly simple. There are some tips and techniques that I'll show you so that we avoid any kind of pooling between the stitches, and how to get those colour work sections nice and neat. This sock was knitted up so that I could demo what this one would look like. So this is the Valentine's Day yarn that I've created. So it's a bit more of a mauve pink. It's a lilac-y pink really, with some red and pink speckles. There's some purple speckles through it as well. And that's it knitted up. So this one I've called From Me to Me, because I don't know about you, I did a little poll on my Instagram stories the other day asking, do you celebrate Valentine's Day? And the vast majority of people said no, and I need no excuse to buy yarn. So a little gift to me from me. So these are available to pre-order until the end of January, and then I'll get them out first week in Feb. As well as this one though, I also created, so The red at the top here is a really rich ruby red, and I created a set of mini skeins. This is the ruby one here. So it goes through all of the pinks into lilac and purples and ends up with these ones here. And these are also available as a pre-order. So they're a set of 10, and I think I've got them on, I've got DK 20 gram ones, and then with the fingering weight I've got 10s and 20s as well. So they're available too. And I thought it might be nice to introduce a couple of the regular small businesses that have been involved in the treat box before, and some products that you particularly liked. So I've added an option to add some extra gifts. This is a candle by the Udney Candle Company. Gillian is a fellow knitter, and we actually met through one of the Zoom craft nights that I host. So once a fortnight we have a Zoom craft night, and Gillian makes these amazing candles. And then the fudge doesn't really need any introduction. These go down a storm. It's like the best fudge you've ever tasted. It's by Julie at Fudge Like. So you'll get a candle, some fudge, and I've got some stitch markers as well. They've just arrived today, so that'll be my job in the evenings this week, to make up some stitch markers to go along with them. So as I say, they are available to order as a pre-order at the moment on the website. I'll pop a link below, and they'll remain on there until, a few people have asked me to keep them on until the end of the month. We all know that January is a nightmare month, isn't it? So it'll stay on until the end of January, and then I'll get them out the first week in February. So there we go. I'm going to have a quick look at my notes to see if there's anything else. Ooh, one section that I thought I might introduce to this podcast is patterns that caught my eye, or just a crafty thing or initiative, or maybe it's an exhibition or something that has caught my eye and I feel like people might be interested in seeing. So one that just blew me away the other day was a rainbow quilt, and I'm going to try and add a picture of it up here. It was by Glacier Lily Quilts, and I just absolutely love it. I don't do any quilting. Doesn't stop me admiring it and admiring the workmanship that's gone into it. Maybe one day. I do love to sew, but quilting, I don't think I've got the accuracy for it. But I thought you guys might like to see it too. It's beautiful. The other thing, I always have, I don't think I ever run out of inspiration as to what my next knit is going to be. I usually always have several projects on the go at once, but I don't have a big, I've got the blanket, but I don't have like a garment thing. So maybe my next one might be the Pauline sweater, and it's by Colibri by Joanna. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Joanna is based in Berlin, and I'll pop a link to it below, but it was actually the kid size sweater that I loved. I loved the colours that she'd chosen, and there's an adult version too, so I think I'm probably past the stage where Elsa would want to twin with me. She's getting a little bit more independent, so I don't know how I feel about that, but I might make the adult sized version of that next, possibly. The other thing that caught my eye is and you guys will probably have seen it already, it's the Sea Glass sweater by Wool and Pine. They have, I think they've got a 4-ply version as well. It must have been last year. And then this is the double knit version as well. And it would be a great one for getting rid of scraps. I've got lots of odds and ends. I tend to have a bit of a clear out at the beginning of the year, where I try and put everything back in its box. And I tend to organise things by weight rather than colour. So I've got a box of double knit that I think would work really well for a sea glass sweater. But as always, I get really easily distracted, and I also really like the look of the Snow Pine sweater. So when I was on the Wool and Pine website, I thought, oh, maybe that one instead. So look that one up, it's beautiful as well, Snow Pine sweater. I think next time I will, as I say, get that Bridgerton sweater from my mother-in-law to show you that and talk you through that particular project. And I will probably, I think I've only really got the rib at the bottom of this Mema cardigan and then the neckband, so you pick up stitches all the way around, and I'll probably have that to show you in the next wee while. Hopefully that will be what we'll work on, what I'll show you next time. So I hope that you've enjoyed that. I feel like I've talked at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm much better at just kind of go for it and dive right in. My editing skills, my technology skills aren't the greatest, so there hopefully won't be too many edits for me to do, and I'll get this posted fairly soon. There'll be a list below of where you can find me, but if you've liked it, please say you've liked it and it's not too cringy. I really hope that no one I actually know in real life watches this, but I guess it's inevitable. But if you liked it, and I would welcome any feedback that you have, and I will hopefully post another one. I'm going to aim for once a month. If it's more than that, great, but we'll say once a month. Next time, I will hopefully have that Mema cardigan to show you, the Bridgerton sweater, and I'll also be chatting about my new range of colours that I'm going to bring out for the launch of the new Outlander series. So I'm a massive Outlander fan, and I have had a few Outlander colourways over the years, but I'm going to bring out some new ones and bring back some of the old ones as well. I think the series comes out on the 6th of March, but I will be at the virtual Yorkshire Yarn Fest on it's either the 26th or the 28th of February. I forget which day, but the end of February. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll launch all of those new colourways for then, and I'll have them to show you, hopefully. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and enjoy the rest of your week. I'll catch you later.